and we have a very exciting range of talks for you today. Just to remind you the scope of this session, we framed it around the critical importance of capacity building and globally accessible biodiversity knowledge in addressing the crisis that is facing biodiversity, and as it is highlighted in the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, particularly looking at targets 20 and 21. So we have a wonderful community with us here at this conference, and many of you are engaging in activities that contribute to building up community that's involved in this work and to building up capacity. And our purpose today is really to talk about questions like how are we actually addressing these priorities of targets 20 and 21, and what benefits are there of capacity development and organized biodiversity data on different scales from the local communities to the global networks. So how can we work together and learn from each other's initiatives to think about building up this global community that's really needed to address our common challenges. Our speakers will be talking about their different approaches. We have framed them into groups of 3. This is a session that's co-organized by OBIS and GBIF, and we're delighted to bring our networks closer together through this whole event and through these sessions in particular. So we will invite speakers to come up in one group at a time. They will present to you, and then there will be a short break afterwards for discussion across all the presentations that you've heard and for your questions. So we know that we also have people joining us online. Please feel free to add questions online. We have people who are watching questions online and will relay those to us. So we look forward to your idea sharing and a very active discussion. I'm going to invite now the speakers for our first theme. So Maeva Bagar-Larsen and Leonardo Buitrago, please come up and sit here. So our first theme today is going to be talking about engaging communities across scales. And I'm pleased now to invite Maeva to give us our first presentation of the day, talking about the Biodiversity Information for Development Program. Over to you, Maeva.
Thank you, Meliani, and good morning. So I'm very truly delighted to be here with you today, especially as I get to present a topic that is very close to my heart. So how community engagement and capacity development can help expand the flow of accessible knowledge. So as Meliani said, my name is Maeva Bagar-Larsen. I am a program officer at the GBIF Secretariat based in Copenhagen. And today I'm going to make that presentation on behalf of quite a few of my colleagues as well involved with capacity development and communication. So Meliani Raymond, Laura Russell, who's here, Sanja Novakovic, and April Swan. And I'll use GBIF-led Biodiversity Information for Development program, the BID for short, that was mentioned yesterday by Alice Hughes in her keynote speech, to illustrate GBIF approach to capacity development. Okay. So it's not a surprise, I think, and we can all agree that open science and open data are essential to address today's crisis. Accessible data from the local to the global level is critical to understand the threat and their causes, and also to inform actionable mechanism to address this threat. And yet, as it has been highlighted many times already during this conference, that access to data remain patchy and uneven and even biased. So the mobilization of open biodiversity data is at the core of GBIF mission. With more than 3.5 billion occurrence record and growing, GBIF is one of the major data aggregators worldwide of biodiversity data. And you can see in this slide the occurrence that is currently available in GBIF. However, we can also see in this map that is still uneven, and there's many gaps. So we could say that this map reflects more the capacity to manage data and share data rather than real biodiversity richness. And we believe that is mostly due to a lack of awareness, of capacity and resources, rather than a lack of willingness. And this is this belief that has driven the development of GBIF capacity development framework. And this framework has two broad objectives: to support the ability and the capacity to mobilize data through GBIF, and to support the capacity to use GBIF-mediated data. Why these two objectives? It's because we decided to focus our resources and efforts on the core of GBIF mission, the GBIF niche, because we think that is where we are most able to make an impact. So it's not that other things are not important, it's just that's where we are best at. So as I said earlier, I will use the GBIF BID program as a practical example to illustrate GBIF approach to capacity. The BID program is funded by the European Community, the European Union, and was first launched in 2015. And it focuses mainly on Latin America and the Caribbean, the Pacific, and Sub-Saharan Africa. It is a capacity development program that aims to increase the availability of access of open data to support the knowledge needs of the Global Biodiversity Framework, but also of other multilateral agreements, as well as national and regional priorities. More specifically, with BID, we want to increase the access to open biodiversity data, for example, through the organization of calls for proposals. We also want to support the use of biodiversity data in research and decision-making, for example, with organization of regional meetings to increase the awareness of the various uses of open data. And lastly, we want to develop and strengthen robust communities of practice, for example, through the contracting of regional support teams and the development of open training materials. Since the launch of BID in 2015, we strive to refine our approach by actively seeking feedback and recommendation, and by documenting best practices and lessons learned. We can call it a learning journey, and that has benefited and continue to benefit from the feedback and recommendation of everybody involved. So from a successful applicant and an unsuccessful applicant to BID call for proposal, from our GBIF nodes, from our reviewers, mentors, trainers, and all our partners. So all these contributions have helped us refine our approach to capacity development and help shape the next iteration of our tools and our actions. And to illustrate this learning journey within BID, I will share with you a few concrete examples of some of the challenges we encountered and the responses we came up with. One of the first challenges was to find a way to address the steep learning curves that comes with data mobilization. BID projects are relatively short, about 24 months. So the time to get familiar with the best way to mobilize data is limited. And as a funding setup for the BID program prevented us to extend the implementation of this project, we sought other solutions. So since 2021, whenever possible, we have contracted regional support teams to provide in-region expertise. But I won't elaborate on this, as Leo will talk much more about that. We also developed earlier this year a short optional course on data mobilization planning. And this is a direct answer to feedback we received from previous BID grantees that say that they would have appreciated receiving more information on what data mobilization entails already when they were writing their proposal. So we developed this optional course to explain key data mobilization concepts to support the development of robust data mobilization plan already from the application stage. And This course is now embedded within the full proposal stage of the 2025 bid calls for proposals. We ran this course already once this year, and feedback indicated that it was quite well received. Another challenge that appeared almost from the start, and that we did not fully anticipate the issue around data hosting solutions, especially from projects in countries that were not GBIF participants. Initially, GBIF nodes provided solutions to lower the technical threshold for sharing data and offered hosting services to countries and to projects that could not run their own publishing tools. To further support them, the GBIF Secretariat hosted regional instances of its own data publishing tools, the Integrated Publishing Toolkit, or IPT. So these regional IPTs give publishers who are unable to find another solution a no-cost option to host the data that include basic backup and software updates. And the data can easily be migrated later to another IPT of their choice if needed. These regional IPTs are administered by volunteers, including node managers and GBIF mentors, and more recently, the GBIF bid regional support teams. The last challenge I will mention is twofold and relates to regional and cross-regional collaboration and knowledge sharing. To support this, we developed a range of fully open training materials and courses, and we organized at least one workshop in each of the target regions for representative of bid-funded projects. Workshop participants are actively encouraged to disseminate the knowledge they acquire during these workshops and to reuse GBIF training materials to organize replication workshops. In addition to equipping the project teams with data mobilization skills, these workshops are also a way to nurture regional community of practice through networking and collaborative approaches to knowledge sharing. Whenever possible, we align these workshops with GBIF regional node meeting to increase opportunity for networking. And my colleague Laura Russell, who's here at the front, will have a presentation on our training strategy this afternoon, and she's here today, so if you have any question about that, I encourage you to talk to her. The need to better support cross-regional collaboration across the bid target region was also flagged by an external review of the previous iteration of the bid program. When we first started exploring this topic with our community, many highlighted the difficulty of establishing new collaboration where they were unfamiliar with the people and the landscape in other regions. So to address this challenge, we started to actively promote the opportunity to become volunteer reviewers of projects submitted by other regions. So in addition to understanding better how the project proposal we receive are being scored, which can ultimately improve project writing skills, this offers a chance to become more familiar with the other region's priorities and also the other region's landscape. We will also be opening a bid call for proposal in mid-December for regional and cross-regional data mobilization projects. This call will specifically target projects involving teams that have previous experience within biodiversity data mobilization, as we expect this project to be fairly complex to implement. We do not expect to fund many projects under this last call, but we hope that it will offer a model for collaboration on shared theme and priorities across the bid target region, so across Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, and Caribbean, and the Pacific. In any case, we will make sure to document any lessons learned and, from this new call and share the guiding examples that can inform similar initiatives in the future. So far BID has funding 102 projects involving 43 countries, over 165 institutions, of which more than half were first-time data publishers share data as part of these projects. These data have now been used in over 1,700 peer-reviewed papers and in over 230 IUCN Red List assessments. Lastly, GBIF organized so far 12 bid workshops that train over 250 professionals, and each of the projects that we're funding, so each of the 100 plus projects that were funded, organized between 1 and 3 workshops. And in addition, several countries recognize the value of maintaining national biodiversity information facilities. The training materials developed under BID have since been reused and adapted countless times, both within and outside the BID regions, showing that the impact of BID transcends its initial target regions. Our approach to capacity development is not really top-down and is not really bottom-up. In fact, we want to implement a top-down, bottom-up, sideway approach all at once. We have a top-down approach with a call for proposals, and we also have a bottom-up approach with the development of open training and reusable training materials. We have the sideway approach through the enabling of networking and the facilitating of knowledge sharing. There are many ways to get involved with BID and GBIF. You can consider becoming a part of our volunteer community, for example, and this QR code will lead you to the GBIF volunteer application form. Volunteers are essential part of our program, and we see the growth of volunteers as a reflection of the growing community that is engaging with GBIF and the BID program. We are still actively recruiting reviewers to assess our ongoing and upcoming call for proposals, as well as trainers and mentors for the capacity development workshop that we will organize in 2026. You can also explore GBIF training materials and get inspired by guiding examples from previous BID projects. You can participate in or promote the ongoing BID call for proposals in Africa and the upcoming BID regional and cross-regional call. If you have initiatives that align with BID, we would be very happy to discuss how we can align our actions, for example, through the sharing of training materials, the support of our regional support teams, and or our GBIF nodes, and the dissemination of events and news. And if you know of any opportunities to expand the geographic reach of BID, for example, in other regions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So we hope that by supporting the development of capacity at multiple levels and by promoting and supporting knowledge sharing mechanism, we can jointly address some of the gap of in data availability. Without diminishing in any way the importance of technologies and innovation, what we really believe is that it is very crucial to empower everyone to be able to use these technologies and this innovation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Maeva. Please hold on to your thoughts and questions. We're going to have one more speaker, and then we will have a little panel discussion. So over to Leo Buitrago. Please talk to us about the work as a regional support team.
Thank you, Meli. Good morning, everyone. I'm Leonardo Buitrago. Welcome to Bogota, to my city. Today I will share how regional support helps turn local biodiversity data into global knowledge, connecting institutions across regions. I'm here speaking on behalf of my colleagues also. Labam from Uganda, Anabela from Argentina, and Siki from Madagascar. So let's begin with a real example of how this works in practice. This is the story of Suriname herbarium. Suriname is a small country in the north of South America with incredibly biodiversity country. But for years, thousands of plant records were hidden in physical catalogs and local databases. They have been struggling with limited resources and technical expertise at the start. But they have something very valuable, and it's strong teamwork and commitment. I don't know. No? Sorry. Not working. Okay. um, yeah, let's talk more about what happened in the region. I was just showing you an example of Suriname, but this is something very common that we have this kind of situations in countries as in Latin America and in Africa also, that when we have these situations when we have a very good biological collection data, but have been struggling about how to create capacity on these teamworks, trying to make them understand how to publish data through GBIF or how to standardize data. So, okay. In 2020, this situation changed a little bit. The Suriname Herbarium submitted a proposal and was selected to take part in the BID program, as Mahiba already talked about that. And with assistance from the regional support team, the Herbarium received hands-on help with data cleaning, IPT use, and GBIF standards. Eventually they published the first data set of the herbarium, and now it's published openly through GBIF. And also, other exciting news is that in 2022, Suriname joins GBIF as an associate participant. So that's an impressive work that they, like an additional effort that demonstrate how the GBIF network also is expanding. The first part of the Suriname example represents a common reality across the global south. So many institutions still have data trapped in physical formats, They have limited expertise and continuity hinder publishing, and that's when the regional support could be a very good tool that they can use to guide all the support that they need to understand how to publish data through GBIF or standardized data or implement data cleaning tools. So additionally, many institutions also, or many countries in the global south lack a formal GBIF node, so we are also trying to engage new countries in the GBIF network. Our job is to make GBIF tools and standards work in local contexts, so we provide multilingual help to institutions and people. This is how we transform global resources into local impact and improving data quality, creating capacity via training and mentorship. And this is the structure that you can see there when we have, two persons in Pacific and the Latin America and the Caribbean, that is Anna and me, and Laban and Siki in Africa. So we provide help to institutions, but also we make some feedbacks to the GBIF Secretariat to help them to understand what are the real needs from those institutions. And also we create some examples about how we can share knowledge between the regional teams. So this map is based on the records mobilized within the BID program and highlights the work we have been doing, filling data gaps in these regions, and it can very easily to see how many records have been mobilized, not just in terms of species records, but expanding also the participation of institutions in the GBIF network. And this support doesn't end after training, it continues. So we follow up with institutions, encourage peer exchange, and even support countries that are not yet formal GBIF members. So that inclusion and that regional help desk that we have been doing also can help us to understand better and to connect with people inside each region. So, just to finalize, I have to say that in the end, this is about building a connected and resilient GBIF community. So every local effort, like the one from Suriname that I showed you, adds a piece to the global biodiversity puzzle, providing opportunities to engage, also sharing learnings and experiences through all the regional supports and also to the institutions inside each region, establishing long-term engagement into the GBIF community, creating collaboration, and also expanding the GBIF network. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Maeva and Leo. I'm Catherine Tattersall. I come from Australia. I'm at CSIRO and work at the Marine National Facility there, and I also co-chair OBIS, the Ocean Biodiversity Information System. It's been really lovely to hear about the BID program that GBIF is running, and to learn a little bit more, especially from you, Leo, about how it's been implemented in this part of the world. I guess I have a few questions, but I'd like to take questions from the audience first, if there are any, or if there are any questions online, or if you're online and you've thought of anything, just drop it in the chat. We've got someone monitoring the chat. Are there any questions for Leo and Maeva together or separately in the room?
Hi, I'm Steve Formel from OBIS. Nice talks, thank you so much. The work you're doing is so important. And I'm wondering though too if across our networks of many types that are talked about in this conference, if we can do more to have the people who are doing the engagement make people aware of these other networks. So for example, I'm wondering, Leo, this just occurred to me, I never thought, like when you're training, for example, in your GBIF node in a place that has marine coastline, do you say also, hey, it's simple to add OBIS network when you, when you publish your data? Or is that something we just haven't thought about yet?
So that was a question when a GBIF node starts contributing, joins the BID program. Does GBIF also say, hey, if you have marine data, do you want to add it to OBIS?
Yes. Yes. So we have a joint strategy with OBIS, and that's definitely part of it. We try to encourage the sharing of marine data through OBIS. Actually, one of our very successful previous BID project in Venezuela, most of the data was published by OBIS Caribbean, and they published lots of data, both in OBIS and GBIF. Regarding the inclusion of the node from this, in general, we do inform GBIF nodes when there are activity from the BID program in their countries so that they can fully participate and integrate this activity within their own way of organizing the national network or the thematic networks. So it's very important for us that we do not have two different separate communities, the BID community and the GBIF or OBIS community, but to, again, to facilitate that networking and that sharing of knowledge across both communities, so at the end of the day, we all are one broad community sharing and using data.
Leo, have you anything to add? I don't know about your experience with marine
maybe
data.
just to mention that I already talked before with Steve about this, but we have a previous experience with Panama, for instance, because the OBIS node is just established recently. And we have a very good conversation before, just trying to create, better channels of communication and trying to not duplicate efforts from one country that can struggle, too much trying just to publish data. So we need to clarify. We have been working on clarifying what could be the best mechanisms to not duplicate these efforts and trying to connect both networks.
Yeah, that's great. That regional collaboration makes a really big difference. We have another question.
Thanks so much for this. My question is about deep sea biodiversity, particularly on the seabed. And I was wondering whether you do any work together with the International Seabed Authority to gain access to deep seabed data on the high seas, and whether you're working with communities including for the BBNJ preparation, to try to kind of figure out how to collect more biodiversity data about the deep seabed ecosystems.
So not so far. So how the BID program works is that it's really one of the key activities of bid call for proposals, and it's open to everybody. So we see what type of projects are being selected, and these projects are being selected by scorings by international experts and an international selection panel. Then we see what type of focus these projects that have been selected are working on, and then we try to make the connection with the appropriate network so that we can help those projects to be successful. So it's really the project, the need they have to share the data, and they also have identified some use for this data they want to share, and then we try to facilitate them, or like to enable them to help them to reach their objectives. Unfortunately, we haven't got any project on deep sea biodiversity yet. Maybe in the next one, we don't know. But if we have, we'd definitely be trying to get more partnership with the expert and network working in this area.
There is, as you're probably aware, there is an OBIS deep sea node, so perhaps we could make that linkage there as well. Yeah. Are there other questions in the room or questions online for our panel? If not, I'll give you a moment to think, and while you're thinking about it, I had a question for you, Leo. I think in your experience and that of your co-authors, I said that I think there were co-authors from, was it Venezuela or Madagascar?
Yeah, from the other regional support, you mean?
So anyway, so you and your co-authors have participated in the BID program, and you've had that experience of the training and the mobilization of data. Do you know whether sort of the flip side of the coin, becoming more aware of the data in the region and mobilizing it into one sort of larger regional aggregated data set, means that the research communities in this part of the world, or the policymakers in this part of the world, are also taking advantage of that data that has recently been aggregated?
Yeah, I think we have been creating these, also these kind of connections, not just with the researchers and the institutions that can provide the biodiversity data, but also coming back to that experience with Suriname, they will work well connected with the environmental ministry, and that helps also to understand how, a big effort from a national herbarium can provide also important information for decision makers. So yeah, we have a lot of experience now that can show us that this is, good results and outcomes from programs like BID, or the capacity that we have been installing with the regional supports on each region.
My background's in research, and the number of my colleagues who have spent countless months contacting various people to try to assemble a data set in order to answer a question is, I think it's ubiquitous as a problem. So I'm really glad to hear that is happening as an outcome of this program.
Yeah, and also, with some countries could be, that connection with the environmental ministry or the governmental part or decision makers could be more difficult, like in Cuba or Venezuela. But in general, I think we have been getting very good outcomes and results about those connections, at least at the beginning with the data providers that have the data available, or at least they could provide some, is that like a first stage, and it's a starting point.
Are there other questions in the room? Yep, we've got one at the back, or nearly the back.
Hello, I just wanted to ask you about the funding, because these are organizations from different countries. So I just wanted to know how you canalize the funding for also people from the global south. I think we have been talking about this a lot, that these funds maybe, because it's good that it's been doing science, but also I think it's very important that the funding is also for us, for people from here. So I just wanted to know how you are managing that, because sometimes, in our country, sometimes the money for research is very lower than comparing with another country. So just wanted to know that how is this being managed. Thank you.
Yes. So to be able to get funding under the BID program, you need to be, the lead institution of the project need to be located in an eligible country in the region. So we send the funding directly to the institution of the main, the lead project team. And it has to be in the region. So the most of the time, like the BID grant go directly to university or to group of researchers or to governmental agencies that are working on the project. And they are working like, and it's up to that lead institution to divide the fund based on the partnerships they establish in the region to make the project. So that go directly to the region.
I work for a local NGO located in Ecuador, so we are part of the Global South, and we have tons of data, and we couldn't translate these to data sets. And I am curious about what happened, because we are working for almost 3 decades, something like that, collecting data, and why and we are working with local scientists from Ecuador, but also from students and researchers from the US mainly, but from other parts of the world. But what is what do you think is the main reason the researchers are not very interested in publishing the data sets or joining a GBIF node, besides the lack of funding?
Besides the lack of funding, I think first I would say it's lack of awareness. They don't know how, they don't know why. They don't know how it can be used, also why is it beneficial, and they don't know how to start, where to start. So that's why it's very pleased to, well, in Ecuador you have the Ecuadorian node, but you can also ask support from Leo and Annabella to help connect with the node or see where to start, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that yes, sometimes just the people doesn't know even that the GBIF node exists in their countries, you know. So that could be like a first step, that you need to know that some nodes are very active. Actually, Ecuador is, the regional representative is, in the GBIF network is from Ecuador, and we have been working with them yeah, recently. I think now we are more connected, and for sure we have a long journey, but now we have created these kind of connections, and you can make approach directly to the GBIF node manager that is installed in the environmental ministry, but also we can provide this kind of support from the regional support that we are available to help you.
We've got one more question at the back of the room, and I'll make this the last question, and then we'll move on with the session.
Hello, my name is Laurent. I work for OBIS, and I have a communication-related question. How can we make sure that the BID call reaches the right targets? We are all trying to promote it. We are all trying to make it so that the right audiences are served with the calls. But how could we improve that so we are really sure that the less exposed people to our media channels get the message and can participate in this call?
I think what we've done is to publish the call for proposal openly on our website, to send it through our mailing list, also make social media campaign. We also pay for social media engagement, especially to reach out in more people in some region where we know we have not as many contacts as we'd like to, like in Oceania, for example. But I think like the latest call for proposal in Latin America and Caribbean, we received over 400 concept notes, so I think we reached quite a large amount of people. But yes, we do try to, we work very closely with our communication teams to make sure that our communication strategy is really targeted to the people we want to reach. We also share the news with OBIS and our other network, partner network. So I don't know, I see we have a communication colleague there. I don't know if you want to add anything? Oh, yes. We also had regional meetings last year in each of the target region to work with the regions, the representative in the region, to develop the call for proposal, to identify priorities that were important for each region and make sure it was relevant, and then to ask them how is best to disseminate that information and to make sure that they could also have the proper information they could disseminate within their own network.
Thank you. Thank you, Leo, and thank you, Maeva. Can I ask our next three speakers to come to the stage, please? That's Elizabeth Lawrence, Lynn van der Piet, and Hiroyuki Muraoka. While our speakers are coming up, the next topic that we're going to address in this session is on training and knowledge sharing approaches. And our first speaker will be Elizabeth Lawrence. She's going to talk about OBIS capacity development initiatives in light of the OBIS and GBIF strategy.
Okay. All right. All right, so thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of this joint OBIS-GBIF session. So yes, I'm Elizabeth Lawrence. I'm part of the OBIS Secretariat. I am the OBIS training officer, so I do all sorts of things to help people standardize their data. And I am, my co-author on this presentation is Ana Carolina Peralta, who does a lot of, leads a lot of capacity development, particularly in the Latin American, Caribbean region. So capacity development is really essential, and OBIS strongly believes in the importance of developing capacity for data mobilization, data accessibility, and data use. And we really believe that data systems are only as strong as the capacity of the people that contribute to them. And one of our priority goals at OBIS is to empower contributors worldwide through tools, training, and partnerships. So by increasing the capacity of the people in our network, we can ensure that there's quality data that's contributed to the global system in order to increase the global impact of the OBIS network. So indeed, like much of the capacity development in OBIS is really community created. So similar to GBIF, we kind of take a top-down, sideways, bottom-up approach where the OBIS nodes lead a lot of the capacity development initiatives across our network. So while the OBIS Secretariat works with the Ocean Teacher Global Academy, OTGA, to provide some higher level training materials and guidance, it's really the OBIS nodes who take on the role of developing the capacity within their local regions. So just highlighting that there's now more than 30 OBIS nodes across the world, representing more than 1,000 different institutions. And yeah, they really play a crucial role in our network. So one such example is the, just established this year, is the OBIS LAC, the OBIS Latin America and Caribbean Regional Group, which really emphasizes peer mentorship, which is pretty exciting. OBIS also fosters partnerships with various other organizations in order to enhance capacity. So some of these partnerships include GBIF, OTGA, Ocean Teacher Global Academy, MBON, the Marine Biodiversity Observation Network, Ocean Best Practices, and SeagrassNet. I'll be focusing on just a couple of these for this presentation. So starting with OTGA, Ocean Teacher Global Academy is a Moodle-based learning system platform that falls within IOC UNESCO. And they host certified courses through many different regional training centers. And one of the advantages is using OTGA, we can host self-paced, like fully online, hybrid courses, as well as developing content to be used for fully in-person courses. And I'm showing a screenshot here of all of the OBIS courses that are within the OTGA platform. And working with OTGA, we're also able to provide an OBIS certification course, which is required for all of our OBIS nodes that they have at least one staff member who is OBIS certified by successfully completing these courses. And this really helps ensure that our community is up to date and in the know of the different data standards, especially for marine data. And because the course content is on OTGA, they'll always have access to it. So now I'm going to kind of go over the different kinds of training resources that we have available, whether produced by the OBIS Secretariat or by members of our community. So I've kind of grouped these into 3 different categories, starting with manuals and courses. So of course we have the OBIS manual, which is a very comprehensive online guidelines that goes through the whole data pipeline for data formatting, and includes a Darwin Core checklist. Pretty handy. You can go and see like which Darwin Core terms might fall into which data table. And we also have a series of different examples showing how different types of data can be formatted to Darwin Core. And of course, I mentioned the OTGA courses. So in addition to the certification course, we also have there's different data management courses, courses for eDNA, and there's been a number of courses that have been developed for in Spanish to support our Spanish-speaking community members. We also have a YouTube series of 18 videos that go through the data formatting process to provide a little more visual walkthrough of how to organize data for Darwin Core. And then we've been working again with our Spanish community and have translated 7 of these into Spanish so far. And the OBIS Secretariat, the community organizes a lot of different workshops that's supported by the OBIS Secretariat. So just a few, there's the Marine Biological Data Management Mobilization Workshop that's actually in 2 weeks. So maybe I'll see some of you there. And then there's workshops with our deep sea community, DUCE, through MBON and Air Center, different workshops and webinars. Different tools that we've produced to help improve capacity include different coding and quality control tools. So there's, of course, R and Python packages, data quality control tools. There's one that was developed by IWANET and LifeWatch, your OBIS. There's a number of OBIS notebooks that have been produced of how to use OBIS data and both get it and use it, whether that's a Parquet data format, different species grids, or environmental data. And then, of course, there's a lot of community-created code examples. So one example is a biodata guide developed by IUS. And there's also been a number of georeference tools that have been developed to help with georeferencing steps. So you'll be able to check your maps, converting different geometry strings, as well as converting coordinates into decimal degrees. And then there's also tools for metadata to help make sure we're all contributing to the Goose Bio Eco Portal and in a standardized way. Yeah. And the last category of capacity development tools is on controlled vocabulary, and this is something that has been near and dear to my heart. It's been part of the OBIS vocabulary team, which does now include some GBIF members. Controlled vocabulary really enhances data use and data understanding. We'll actually be talking about that later this afternoon. So we've developed, again, a YouTube series, a decision tree, and a lot of tools to help you go through a process of how do I find controlled vocabulary. And so we've been working to develop capacity around using and finding controlled vocabulary for a while now. So kind of switching gears, within the OBIS GBIF joint strategy, there's two areas of collaboration. There's, of course, the technical cooperation, but then I'm going to focus more on our collaboration with the community and capacity area. So there's, we have 6 joint actions that we've agreed on. Just showing 4 here. So we have working together on joint mobilization and data calls, enabling different coordination network mechanisms across our networks, and developing clear messaging around our partnership, and of course developing joint training resources that both of our networks can take advantage of. So within this developing joint training resources, we really want to make sure we're encouraging both of our communities to mobilize data to and from OBIS. So GBIF data makes it, GBIF marine data makes it into OBIS, and OBIS data also goes to GBIF. And one of the collaborations upcoming, we're going to have an OBIS session in the GBIF Technical Support Hour in December. And we've been talking about having a more series of some OBIS and EOV participation across our networks. And we've also, like with the new Darwin Core data package, definitely lots of conversations around this of developing joint training to make sure both of our networks can, we can build capacity to start using this data package very smoothly. So some of the future directions within this include like just working on like strengthening our collaboration. So like really working for joint training and resources, co-developing some shared training curriculums that we can both use, and also investigating further integrations with OTGA that GBIF could leverage, and pursuing some shared fundraising that could support these activities, and of course also exploring joint community engagement roles. So just to kind of like summarize, we at the OBIS Secretariat, we're happy to hear from you and answer any questions. And capacity development like really is essential. It's really important to us. And capacity development like means collaboration. And so we're very open to collaboration, and we want to like strengthen our collaborations with GBIF, since we all rely on each other as a community. Right, and that is my talk. So again, thank you everyone for listening, and I'll be happy to take questions in a few minutes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. You're taller than me, so I'm standing on my tippy toes. Actually, maybe I'll bring it down because I think, Lean, you and I are about the same height. If you can hold your questions, we'll do as we did for the last topic. So when we will have the 3 speakers and then we'll have a panel discussion around the topic that's been covered. Lean, if you'd like to come up, it'd be great to hear you speak. Lean's going to talk about Eurobis and eModNet biology. They're 2 of the driving forces behind marine biodiversity and data capacity building within Europe.
That's it, you summarized it. Thank you. I'll lower this one a bit. There we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Right now, I'm here as the Eurobis node manager. I'm wearing multiple hats this week, but Eurobis node is what we are right now. Just to give you a little bit of background information on Eurobis. Eurobis started in 2004 as the European node within the OBIS network. And what we do, or what our aim was to get together all that very fragmented biodiversity information and data from the marine environments that researchers throughout Europe were collecting, and try to get that all together, making sure that's easily accessible for everyone as well. Eurobis can thus be seen as a service provider. We provide the service that we offer the data to the community. We also offer the data to OBIS and GBIF, so we're part of this very big network. And our institute, or our host institute, is in Belgium. We're the Flanders Marine Institute in Ostende. In 2009, the European Commission started with an endeavor, a long-running project, which is eModNet. And within eModNet, there's a part that is focusing on biological data. So eModNet Biology is also hosted and managed within our institute, and is basically using the Eurobis infrastructure to make everything work. We haven't reinvented the wheel, we just have been using and improving what was already there. Eurobis and eModNet have very strong collaborations with several initiatives. So although we are European within Europe and we have a focus on the European marine waters, we have a very global connection through OBIS, through GBIF, through several other things, but also, oh, I'm going the wrong way. Try that again, okay. Also with a lot of European projects. A lot of European projects are ongoing that each gather their marine biological data. So also there, through eModNet Biology then specifically, we try to make sure that all those data find their way into the right formats and the right quality and standards so they can be shared within European and global networks. All of this as background information to basically go to what have we been doing as training activities since we started in 2004. We've done a lot of things, and one of the very successful stories for us has been the collaboration with the Ocean Teacher Global Academy. They have a very strong platform available and also very collaborative staff that help us to do things. So what we've done is we've developed online training courses. Everyone can enroll for those training courses. They're freely accessible, so there's no registration fee or anything. The only thing that's needed is that you create an account on Ocean Teacher, and that's it. And those training courses, the ones that we have right now, focus on 3 things. The first one was an obvious one for us. How do our data partners within the eModNet Biology project need to work their data so that they can submit it to us? So we've done that since 2018. And then in 2022, and that's basically also after COVID, once realizing that working online has its benefits, it's a good thing. So we started working on an ocean data management and a biological data management training course. Both of them are available online. You can just register, enroll, you can follow them. It's self-paced, so you do it at your own time, at your own convenience, which is a positive thing. And in the end, if you succeed in all the quizzes and the questions that you have, you also get a certificate of passing and attendance, which is valuable for a lot of people. Like, we know that there's professors that are sending their PhD students to these online courses just to make sure that they have full awareness of what is, for example, a data lifecycle, what is the importance of metadata, why should I even consider to format and to quality control my data. All of that is explained in those training courses. What we also do, specifically with the eModNet Biology project then, is what we've been calling data laundry sessions once a month. And that's specifically for the project partners. Once a month, there's an online session of 1 or 2 hours. Anyone who wants can join, can ask their questions. any question, any problem that they're struggling with at that specific time, they can get that in there. Face-to-face, still, in my opinion, the best way, because you get a really good look and feel of the people that you're working with and the problems or the data issues that they're actually struggling with. Now, I do know that both things have their advantages and disadvantages. So if we look at the online training courses, there's lots of pluses, specifically on the Ocean Teacher. As I mentioned, so you're not dependent on time zones, you're not dependent on specific commitments, you do it at your own pace. The training material stays available. Once you registered, you can keep going back to it. What we found as a downside is that we can only put so much exercises in there. It doesn't cover all the issues that people are dealing with. And it's also not always possible to tailor for very specific questions. If we look at the in-person things, what we have is a bit similar. We get a better look and feel. We get better individual time with people to really do the training. You get more interaction, and also afterwards you get more feedback, and people are easily asking questions afterwards as well. So that's a bit what we're looking at, but in person we know the finances and the logisticals are difficult there. So two-way sides on anything. I do like the fact that we can offer training specifically for this reason. One of the questions in the previous session was like, how do we make sure people understand why they should do data formatting? That's it. You need to know your own data and you need to share them with other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. I really like that cartoon. I might ask you for a copy of it later. I've done that to myself in the past, and yeah, it's not been fun. The third speaker on this topic in our session is Hiroyuki Muraoka, and he's going to talk to us about developing a regional platform for global biodiversity observing systems in the Asia-Pacific region.
So hello everyone, this is Hiroyuki Muraoka from Japan, and today I'm representing the Asia Pacific Biodiversity Observation Network called APBON, which was established in 2009 after the call from the GeoBON. GeoBON was established in 2008, and then at that time they called a kind of making some regional network for the biodiversity observations. So I'd like to show you something about that. Okay, so Asia Pacific region is somewhat far from here. I took about 30 hours from my house, and then let me just summarize that what are the characteristics of the Asia Pacific or Asia Oceania region. So as you are aware that of course, the climate change is happening everywhere in the world, but in the Asia Pacific or Asia Oceania region, we are experiencing a kind of quite extreme environmental changes that causing the disasters or impacts on the biodiversity loss, also the ecosystem services, or even the health for the humans. But we also have the high biodiversity ecosystem services that all the cultures are dependent on. So our issues there is how to develop a kind of how to work or how to develop a kind of scientific based solutions for the nature-based solution or some tackling these environmental changes. So APBON was established in 2008, which was a kind of bottom-up network by the researchers. And one more characteristic of the APBON was always the community development and capacity development had been aligned with the development of the Group on Earth Observations, GEO. And GeoBON is one of the biodiversity GeoBON is a biodiversity initiative under the GEO, and soon the APBON was established with the cooperating with the GeoBON and also the GEO's Asia Pacific Symposium. Then in the last 15 years, the APBON was established. They developed the community by engaging with the researchers, practitioners, institutions or governments in the Asia-Oceania region. Then the mission of the AP1 is, of course, we want to promote the interdisciplinary research, producing the data, knowledge, and information to be used for the environmental issues solutions. And also, we want to deliver our data, knowledge, or intelligence for the nature-based solution in the society. Of course, we have members from the many countries in the region, including Japan, Philippines, Nepal, Indonesia, Malaysia, etc. And also, more importantly, we have the many institutional partners like ASEAN Center for Biodiversity in Philippines and also the ICIMOD. So this diagram summarizes what the structure of the strategy of AP-BOND. In the left-hand side, we have some kind of cycle that we want to have a collaboration within the academic communities. But also we want the researchers, scientists in our region contribute some assessments like IPBES. Of course, some of the members in the AP-BOND are now contributing the IPBES monitoring assessments, which is going on since last year. And then AP-BOND is a platform to engage with the stakeholders, including the governments or the international associations. Then we are working together to what kind of data or knowledge or information are essential for tackling the environmental issues there. So this is the kind of simplified illustrations that what the AP-BOND is making some relationship with the national, regional, and global associations, like the GEO or the Asia-Oceania GEO. Of course, there's GEO-BOND, and we are contributing to the assessments like IPBES. Of course, the issues in the biodiversity are not about the organisms. We have to have a kind of collaboration with the biosphere observation network like a FluxNet that tackling the climate change issues, or other LTR networks like long-term ecological research network, or other efforts like try to linking with the satellite remote sensing and in situ observation. And then we have this kind of outreach activities, having the main databases, books, of course the journals, or open data and data papers. So unfortunately, I have only 5 minutes, so sorry for rushing my presentation, but if you have any questions or interest, please try to talk to me in the lunchtime. Thank you very much.
Okay. Oops, it's going to come up again. Thank you to all our speakers in this session. We are changing as moderators between me and Catherine, so you've got me for this one. Please jump in with questions, raise your hand. I'll also make a call out to anyone online. Please remember you are welcome to ask questions. And perhaps whilst you're thinking of your questions, I can ask one to our panel. I think we've talked a lot through your 3 talks about building up community through training. We heard a bit about certification of skills. And I was wondering whether you have other ways of recognizing roles within your community of trainers and also within the community in AP-BOND. And if you could reflect a bit on, roles in the community and how that helps create a sense of belonging to your communities and contributing. How structured do we need to be in assigning roles to people like mentors and trainers and so on? Maybe you have some thoughts on that? Anyone?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's really important to be able to acknowledge the different roles that individuals or organizations might take on in the community. I think that's something that we're still sort of figuring out. I hesitate to say the best way, but a way that works for our community. I think just like, well, one way is through IOC's Ocean Expert platform, events and both like the events and your expert profile can be linked. And so like if you've participated in an event and obtained a certification, that can be reflected in your Ocean Expert platform. It can give you like a badge of certification, and we can also indicate roles within certain events. And so there's identifiers for such events, and then you could point to like, okay, you know, within this event, I had this role, yeah, I think that's the main.
Anyone else?
Thank you very much. Maybe I have two meanings for the, the community development and the capacity development. Always, AP bonds think that these two aspects are the two wheels. Of course, we need kind of capacity development for the science and technology on the usage of the data or knowledge. But at the same time, we need a kind of community development, not only about the scientific community, but we also try to foster some community between the science and society. Because, for example, in the Asia-Pacific region, we have the high biodiversity, but still also the culture, economies are quite diverse. And in some cases, the importance of the economic growth or some production are much more important than the biodiversity conservation. But we cannot deny for that kind of thing. So always we want to, we continue some dialogue or communication to develop kind of increasing the awareness of the biodiversity, importance of biodiversity, or its impact on the sustainable society or the future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for those responses. Do we have any questions from the room, please? We've had some really interesting presentations. I know that it's been a little while since your last coffee, but please jump in. Yeah, there's one question here. Oh, and one in the...
Yes, ahora sí. I'm curious to think about with these big networks, and it's not just your networks, but large networks in general, they can have a high profile where people find them, but then sometimes it can be difficult to trace back to your own area, to your own country or community, who you should connect with there. So I'm curious what strategies you employ to help people, you know, when you are the entry point for their, to this world of biodiversity data, how do you help them get back to their local community?
Maybe Lynn, do you want to start? Yeah.
From a European perspective, we kind of get it, I think, a little bit easier compared to other regions because we have a lot of European projects. European projects under the Horizon framework have a commitment to make sure that their data becomes available in EMONTnet biology, which is then connected to Eurobis, OBIS, and GBIF. I think our perspective is always go back to your original provider. So even if you get data from someone that says, I've got them from one of my students or from a colleague that is going to retire, just still go back to that person and try to involve that person because they collected the data, they have the best knowledge. And if you can get them to collaborate, you're opening up a wider network again within the organization or the institutes that they're working at. For us, that works. I don't know how it works in other regions, but within Europe, that seems for us a good approach.
Yeah, and then at the global OBIS level, we try to make sure like there's very clear communication, like on our website, like a list of all of the OBIS nodes with their contact information, and we try to make sure that's up to date. So that way, even like if you reach out to the OBIS Secretariat, we can point you into the right direction and like, okay, get a handle on what kind of data an individual might be working with. So that way we can point them to the right OBIS node to work with.
Great. Thank you. I think we can take one more question, and then I'm going to ask our panelists to leave us with, if we can get involved in one way in your activities, what would be the top way for us to get involved? So you can reflect on that. And one more question, please. Let's see who. We have one in the front here. Microphone approaching. So, yeah, thanks.
Thanks so much. I was wondering if you might reflect on the plenary keynote that Sabina Leonelli gave today, and maybe a little following on the earlier question about incentives for joining, for submitting data to GBIF and OBIS, I guess, which is kind of, who is your how do you envision who your target community is in a way? Like, so I think you've already alluded that there are, in a way, two usages potentially of this data. One is from economic perspective, one from conservation perspective, which may themselves be sometimes in tension. But there's also, of course, possibility, because this is open data, you know, everybody could use it for, including for illicit activities, including for extractive purposes, and so forth, machine learning, you know, training Gen AI models. So I guess I'm wondering how you're thinking about kind of who your relevant communities are, and maybe reflecting on the kind of the questions that Sabina Leonelli posed in the morning, which is like, how do we make sure that the data that is supplied is actually used for the purposes that it's intended, and therefore that might also incentivize other people to share data or not. And then relatedly, how do you sort of deal with indigenous knowledge that's not data-driven in both OBIS and GBIF? Thank you.
Maybe Hiroyuki, you want to start?
Thank you for the questions. And yeah, actually, the AP-BON is now working hard for the data sharing, for the kind of regional data integrative analysis for the regional assessment. But we have some gaps. That one is many kind of gaps. Of course, we have some. One of those are observation gaps, data gaps, or the gaps for the data accessibility, because in the Asia Pacific region or Asia Oceania region, we have diverse countries or the disciplines, etc. And then local data or some national data are all described in their local languages. Or, of course, the data sets are already targeted for the local use or national use. So we are now trying, because the AP-BON is a kind of network of networks. By having this scheme, we are trying to improve those data accessibility through these local or national hubs of the AP-BON networks. But still we have some challenges, because all these individual data sets are tightly linked with the local or national use. So always the priority for the data sharing depends on their own policy or some kind of background history. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much to all our speakers. We need to invite our next panel up, so please join me in thanking our three speakers from this side. Thank you. So we are moving now to our third and final topic for this morning, which is community and capacity in the world of collections. And we have three speakers to come up, please. Yes, you're all here. Great. I would invite first Vanessa, who is going to talk to us about engaging communities and improving accessibility in natural history collections. So over to you, Vanessa. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. I will be talking to you today about how we use our natural history collections to engage communities, not just the scientific community, but also our local community. I don't know probably 99.9% of the people here, and neither do you know me. So my name is Vanessa Pituzzi, and I'm the Zoological Collection Manager at the Arctic University Museum of Norway, or Tromsø Museum for short. And I make this presentation together with my colleague, Dr. Andreas Altenberger, who is an associate professor and the curator for marine invertebrates at said museum. And we are both part of the GBIF and OBIS Norway node. So we're working and using these platforms also to our advantages. So let's travel over 9,000 kilometers from the nice warm Bogota to the, from what I've heard from my friends back home, the now wintry Tromsø in northern Norway, located on this beautiful small island. And this is my place of work, the Tromsø Museum. We're both a natural history and a cultural museum. I will be focusing primarily on the natural history side, but if you're interested in the cultural side and the people that work with the indigenous populations up in the north, I can definitely give you some names. Our natural history collection, like many others around the world, are made up of zoology, geology and paleontology, as well as botany. And I work with the zoological collection, so I primarily focus on that part of our collections. And the really nice thing about our museum, because of our very northern location, we really focus and try to capture the northern biodiversity and the Arctic biodiversity. That includes the charismatic fauna that we have heard about quite a lot now. So, you know, you can think bears, you can think reindeer, eagles, anything that is, you know, you look out from your car while you're driving and that you might spot. But actually what is really fantastic about our collection and the people that work at the museum is we have a big focus on the animals and the plants that people might neglect otherwise. So I'm talking invertebrates, I'm talking microscopic invertebrates, lichen, trace fossils, and those are also trace fossils of microscopic animals. So it's really a really broad capture of the northern biodiversity. And we have a working group called NatCycle, or Scientific Collection-Based Taxonomy and Biosystematics. Don't ask me how we got the abbreviation from that. And that is all the curators, all the collection technicians and affiliated students. We come together once a month and we update each other about what's going on in the collections, how are people using the collections in their research, and sort of we exchange information. But that is really great because we really use our collections and we obviously add to the collection through the research. And one thing that NatCycle believes in is open access. So we use GBIF, and through GBIF we have an open hosted portal. And now since last year we will also be using OBIS to publish our collections. So if you look us up on GBIF, you will find all of our natural history collections, but actually mainly the zoological collections, readily available. So if you're interested in a particular group, you can just search what we have. And what is great for us is we're a very small museum, so in zoology we're only 4 people altogether. So we have seen that since publishing this data, in the past 5 years we have gotten over 1,000 citations. And that is very important because we constantly have to argue for the value of our zoological collection. And numbers sell easily. And as I said, since last year we have joined OBIS. So we are online, but I will not focus too much on this now. So if you want to hear more, I have a lightning talk tomorrow about the OBIS node in Norway. So just, you can come after, watch it or just hit me up anytime. And I would like to tell you a bit about the workflow that we have established and how we will integrate now OBIS into this workflow and how we use GBIF to sort of seamlessly publish all of our collections. So let's break it down step by step. We always start with a specimen. This can be a singular specimen, multiple specimens. Depends a little bit if you've been out on a field collection and you come back with multiple specimens at once. You can have historical samples, so animals that have been sitting in our dark basement for 100 years, and from being nameless, they suddenly go to named, and then we register them. And we can also have donations. And then we enter the taxa names in a spreadsheet. We add all the metadata that we have. So the most important one for us is usually latitude and longitude, so we know where it comes from. And then we upload this data to our collection management system, or CMS for short. All of the data is in the Darwin Core format, which is really important because every night all the data in the system is exported in this format and uploaded and can be downloaded internally as Excel spreadsheets. This then goes into the IPT of GBIF, so the Integrated Publishing Toolkit, and from there it goes into GBIF and then becomes readily available, as you saw from the screenshot that I had. And we're now working on doing the same for all of our marine data, for that to go automatically to OBIS. What is really neat is we have an organization in Norway called Artsdatabanken. They harvest all the data from GBIF, all the occurrence data, and they plot it on a distribution map. And this can be used by, again, scientists, the general public. So, for example, also if you're out in nature and let's say you see a white-tailed eagle, you can actually say, okay, I've seen this here. But equally, scientists also can find all the data there. So again, if you're interested in an organism in particular or some plant in particular, you can find it there and you can type it in and then it would show you all the occurrences. So that is pretty neat because it also helps us, again, sort of get our data out and engage people. Another step is at the collection management step or the IPT step, we can upload photographs. So obviously digitizing collections doesn't just mean uploading the data and that's done. We are currently in the process of taking pictures of every single specimen in our collection, and we are uploading these photos as well so that when you click on the record, you also have a visual representation of what it looks like. And as I mentioned before, we have an open hosted portal that we get through GBIF. If you're interested to have a look, you can scan the QR code. And the reason we have both our collections on GBIF and this open hosted portal is because you have to be a little bit more data savvy to get the data out of GBIF. But let's say you have, the local people in Tromsø that would love to know, what does the Tromsø Museum have in their collections? They can just go on the open hosted portal and search. And we have published all of the registered specimens there, so it's close to 550,000. And it's pretty neat, so it's all the natural history collections, not just zoology, divided up. So again, if they have a particular interest, they can scroll down, click on it, and then they have a simplified search function. And then, if they have more questions, they can just contact one of the people in zoology. And obviously, why do we bother going through that much effort when we're, as I said, only a small team of 4 people? The reason behind that is that there is billions of specimens locked up in museum basements all around the world. And with that, there's a lot of biodiversity data hiding in said basements. But it's only around 10% of these specimens that are actually currently online. So whether you're a small institute or a large institute, it is actually so important to get this data out there. Because museum specimens in particular, they are treasure troves of information. It's not just the name associated with the animal that we might be talking about, or the plant, and so on. It's the taxonomic, the geographical, the genetic, the morphological, the ecological data, and so on and so forth. So one singular specimen can give you so much information depending what you're interested in. And we really have seen a very positive impact on a local scale, a regional scale, a national scale, and an international scale of having our collections out there. We have been contacted by Ocean Census, which is a Japanese-founded organization looking to discover marine species all over the globe. So they have actually deposited all their material with us and also used our material to check if it was a new species or something that might have already been collected. We've had people from Germany coming, again, using our collection, reference material, checking, okay, could it be this, could it be that? We've had people from the university in Bern contacting us about seagulls in the Arctic. And on a national and local level, we've had various institutes that we work with, as well as the schools and actually the national newspaper. So last year, they got the wind of our entomologist that works with fungus gnats, a type of fly. And in order to identify them, you have to look at their genitals. And obviously, genitals apparently are a fun way to engage the general public. So the journalist contacted our entomologist and asked, my God, can I publish these pictures of your genitals and can you tell me all about them? People loved it. We also 3D scan a lot of our specimens and make these scans openly available. That is obviously because you can do great evolutionary research with that, but also you can 3D print these animals and then use them for outreach. And specifically in our case, when we work with microscopic animals that, you need a microscope to see them, people otherwise would never get to meet them, they can suddenly hold it in their hand and see it. And people really just their minds are blown. We also use the GBIF data on marine invertebrate distribution to do modeling studies. The Arctic is one of the regions in the world really impacted by climate change. Distributions of animals are changing and the data is there. You don't need to collect new data. So use the data, and we had a master's student do a modeling study, and she found that obviously the Arctic range of species has changed. And lastly, we also had a journalist contact us to write a story about the first female Norwegian zoologist, because we have some of the material she has collected in our collection. So we sent her pictures of this beautiful slug that she collected around Tromsø. And the journalist wrote this very nice article about Brigitte Esmark's life history and really her importance of being the first female zoologist in Norway. So if you haven't already published your data, I highly encourage you to do so. Whether you're from a smaller institute or a larger institute, there's such great help within the GBIF and OBIS network. And if you have any further questions, you can ask them during the discussion or just shoot us an email. Andreas is also very nice and very responsive. Thank you.
Sorry, I was a bit too relaxed there listening to that great talk, and I forgot I was supposed to introduce our next speaker. Please welcome to the stand Olivia, who is going to be talking to us about scaling digital fluency for unlocking biodiversity data. Over to you, Olivia. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Olivia Mitrovitz. I'm the ICMS training lead at Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew. Over the past several years, I've had the pleasure of being part of a very complex and large project at Kew, the development of our new integrated collections management system. Today I'm going to be ICMS. Today I'm going to be talking to you about one aspect of this project, which has been lessons learned from organization-wide training. Okay, there we go. So Kew has a total of 12 collections, originally all stored in separate databases. In March of this year, we have officially integrated all of these collections, amongst other data, into our new database, which was custom designed for Q on EarthCape OY software. The system allowed us to allowed us to request unique collection-specific functionality, as well as development of system-wide tools and processes, all of which had to be taught and distributed to Q staff. The challenges were complex. To date, we've had more than 500 users of ICMS. These came from various departments within Q, coming with a wide range of digital literacy, technical skills, and learning styles. This meant training needed to be unique to specific departments, but then also tailored to group within departments as well. To approach the large volume of training and ensure everyone received uniformity, general introductory training sessions are mandatory for staff who want to use the system functionalities. These started off as general training that anyone could attend, but as the project progressed, the more collections joined with more complex functionality. The general training had to become tailored to specific collections and groups. Demand for advanced training, such as for ECAT, our EarthCape analysis tool, our data import tool, transactional functionality, as well as collection-specific functionality had to be considered, scripted, and made time for. All of this, of course, requires the training lead, that's me, to have in-depth knowledge of the system, which meant staying on top of constant updates and changes to functionality over the years. Then ensuring good engagement and attendance were also a challenge for staff, as staff fell into two categories: those who were excited to start using the new system, and those who had, those who were reluctant or even felt indifferent because it wasn't a necessity for their day-to-day work. Then, of course, advertisement of training sessions. There will always be staff who miss schedules posted online. The key takeaway really was preparation, writing out large variety of scripts for tailored content, pre-planned practice case studies, as well as a very well-structured schedule to accommodate for different training requests, for all the training requests. This schedule had to consist of a mix of general training that anyone could attend, tailored training specific for collections with more complex functionalities, but still had to allocate time from impromptu training, shorter training sessions to cover individual questions and queries, all while still taking into consideration learning styles, tech abilities as well. Patience has also been a very huge help in that regard. Lastly, to support end users further, there are supplementary materials such as the incredibly extensive user guide, which was written by my colleague, a weekly drop-in session, as well as tool templates, cheat sheets for common functionality, training recordings, and also in-person workshops. And if any of you want to, or if any of you are planning a similar journey, feel free to come talk to me because there's so much to discuss. But thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. So please hold your questions. We have one more presentation and then we will take another little panel discussion with questions across. So over to you, Katie, please, to talk to us about an educational game. I'm looking forward to this.
Kia ora koutou, ko Katie Lee tōku ingoa, ko rongo whakata tōku iwi. So my name is Katie Lee, I'm from the Rongo Whakata tribe of the east coast of New Zealand, and I work at Te Kotahi Research Institute, which is an interdisciplinary Māori research institute based out of the University of Waikato. We do a huge amount of interdisciplinary work there, but today I'm going to talk to you about one small part of our work that we recently completed, which is the benefit sharing game, which is called the Benefit Sharing Compass. So this is an online educational tool. It doesn't take particularly long to complete. It's about 15 to 20 minutes. And it takes you through a scenario-based game where users go through the experience of engaging with an Indigenous community, creating a relationship, engaging in access and benefit sharing, capacity building, and then later on commercialization. So first of all, you have your access, and you engage with the community, and you describe your intentions, and you get scored based on your relationship building and your commitment to fairness and equity. And then you go into capacity building, so you're allocating your research budget as to how much you're going to spend on your benefit sharing. And then you go from there into weighing up different considerations that you have when you're engaging with Indigenous relationships about how you value Indigenous decision-making authority, the streamlined consultation process, and the various different aspects you have to think about when engaging with Indigenous communities in research. And then you talk about your strategic approach towards commercialization, so the different ways that you're going to benefit share back to the community and have the community engaged in your commercialization process. And then right at the end, you get a scorecard. It takes you through how well you did, your commitment to fairness and equity, what you could do better, and the different things that you as a user of this information valued most throughout the process. So as you go through the game, your commitment to fairness, equity, and relationship building are scored, and those affect your ability to choose different options later on down the game. So if you're not engaging in a fair and equitable way, maybe the way that you commercialize is hindered because you don't have a relationship built on trust with the community. So it's an educational tool. It's used by students, early career researchers, and anyone who's really thinking about engaging in access and benefit sharing with Indigenous communities, because we really wanted to find other ways to make information about access and benefit sharing with Indigenous communities more accessible and easily understood. So from here, we're going to be going into an extension. Ooh, two of the same slide, fun. So we're expanding it and translating it into Spanish, and then we're also going to be creating a whole bunch of new scenarios. So at the moment, the 3 scenarios that you play, there's the first one where you're engaging with a singular Māori community. The next is multiple Māori communities, and then also engaging with the country as a whole. From here, we're going to be creating an Indigenous Australian, Canadian, Rapa Nui, and Sami scenarios, and they're also going to be translated so they're more accessible. And we've received funding for that, so that's really exciting. It's in its first version now. It's available online, and we're going to be building it out to be bigger and better, and also we're hoping to create a way so that users can have more feedback as they go through about the different things they could be thinking about to improve how they tackle access and benefit sharing. So I'd like to shout out the team. We've worked with GeoAR, our game developer, so Finley Power and his team. We've also got Tim Coltman, Jane Anderson, Maui Hudson, and Natalie Qsabs. We've all worked together on this. And this was funded by the Tikanga and Technology Project, which is through MB in New Zealand, which is about bringing Indigenous rights into the way that we as Indigenous peoples engage with technology. So it was a huge project. We did a huge amount of work, and this was just one particular end part of it about how we translate everything that we've learned back to users. So that's everything I had for now. Thank you so much for listening. I know I'm standing between you and lunch, so thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm actually going to stand between you and lunch now. Well, we're all going to stand between each other and lunch, because we now have a few minutes, 10 or 15 minutes for questions for our panel. Thank you very much for your discussions about collections. It's great. We've got sort of Tromsø to Kew to New Zealand, so you know, we kind of cover a bit of the world. I wonder if we've got questions in the room for our speakers, or questions online. Yeah, Leo.
Yeah, thank you. This is for Vanessa. Thank you for your presentation. As you are the kind of data provider that I have to contact often. So, what do you say is the greater benefit that you receive as part of a biological collection to publish your data through GBIF or OBIS?
I think it's just for us specifically because, as I said and sort of keep on saying, is we're such a small institute, and for us it's really exposure to the scientific world, because we are very fortunately situated in the north, and at least in, Norway is one of these countries that really talks about Arctic climate change. And we sort of have that advantage that we have a lot of Arctic specimens in our collection, and a lot of this like historical data that is really important. So it gives us exposure, and it actually sort of opens the doors to larger institutes, and they end up involving us. So Andreas, for example, gets emails and he's invited onto larger projects because we have that knowledge, and if there's new species discovery, you need to deposit it with a museum. So we're very fortunate through this open access that we're on the radar of the larger players. Yeah.
I really liked you profiled, I think, briefly, it was Arts Databanken, so that regional view of what is basically a globally aggregated data set. It had me thinking about how it sort of highlighted the value that we all get from having that global aggregation of information, because we can find the data that is either from our region or that is about us that otherwise might be hidden. So yeah, I really like the way you showed that. Have we got other questions from the room or online? No, online is quiet. Okay, maybe from the room. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kaylee Buckner. I'm from Portland, Oregon in the United States. My question is, I'm looking at this room, and I also just came from the Indigenous Sovereign Data room, and in both places I noticed that we're seeing generally younger generations that are present at both of these. And I'm wondering, with a lot of the ways that we're addressing this with innovative technologies, how are we going to be able to continue maintaining historical knowledge that we have through older generations, but make these newer technological tools accessible to them as well?
Would any of you like to put your hand up to speak first, and we can go through the full panel if you all have.
Hi. In regards to training and having accessibility for a wide range of learning styles, that is something that I had to take into consideration because we've got a wide variety of ages and abilities, and to accommodate that, I structured the training it was primarily online, but there were a lot of one-to-one sessions and there were a lot of in-person sessions as well, to accommodate, not to discriminate, but just to allow people to use the time that they needed. I've also done repeat sessions as well, which have also been, I've received good feedback for that too. So I think it's just about making the time and space for everyone, and it doesn't even have to be age-based as well, because technical abilities, for example, are not limited to that, are not limited to age. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say.
Well, that's a really wonderful question, and I think throughout the most recent years I've seen more and more young people coming into these spaces, and it's really encouraging. And as an Indigenous woman back home, whenever we have community events and things like that, you see a huge range of the age ranges there, right? We have our elderly there that are really interested, and they come with the wisdom from the past, and then you also have our youth with the passion for the future. And so taking the time to really sit down together and explain things simply in colloquial language, I think is really important. Taking the time to understand each other is really special. And so especially from an Indigenous perspective, Indigenous people conserve 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity, and especially as young people, I think growing up with the climate crisis being incredibly prevalent in our minds, we see a lot more young passion for helping to work towards the future. So I think just learning from our elders and really taking the time to give them the respect and interest that they need, and building that trust with our elders that we want to learn from them, and we're not ignoring them or leaving them behind. We're learning from them to take that knowledge into the future and do better for the generations in front of us. Yeah, just really having open dialogues, taking the time to have one-on-one conversations and things like that, I think is a really positive way forward. Thank you.
Yeah, for us, at the museum, the average age is, on the older side. So we try just to be as transparent as possible, and obviously Andreas and I being part of the GBIF node, and sort of, especially Andreas being the driving force, behind publishing the data. You know, it's an open door policy. It's clearly communicating with people. And we have emeritus professors at, you know, not just the museum, but UIT, the university we belong to. And we, you know, they still come in to the museum because they're still working on some things, but it's having an open dialogue with them because they really have so much knowledge that when technology wasn't as up-to-date or as developed as it is now, it lives in their heads. And they haven't written it down, so it's sort of our task to ask them to write it down or to digitize data that they may have somewhere in, you know, the 20,000 folders that they have in their old offices, and helping them digitize it because it makes sense to them, but maybe if you look at it, it's a bit like, okay, I don't understand the structure. Like all of us may set up Excel sheets differently, but it's sitting down with them and helping them digitize this to make it available. So including them in the process and rather than excluding them because they really are, it's crazy how much knowledge lives in their head.
Okay, we do have another question in the room. I wanted to say, listening to the three of you speak, I can say very confidently I'm the oldest person on the stage. And I've spent decades thinking of myself as, you know, the young one who had to learn from everyone else. I've realised I'm sort of firmly mid-career now. You know, I'll blink and I'll be one of the older people who have that institutional or that organisational memory. And it reminds me that time doesn't stand still. We might be young one day, we're middle-aged the next, we're the elders and the keepers of knowledge, and we keep passing it on, and things change. Because the only constant has changed, and and we all pass through that cycle. Question from the room.
Yeah, my question is for Katie. I really enjoyed your work, and but I was a bit surprised at the end when you said that you were translating it to Spanish, just because my own biases, I thought, well, that's kind of not that part of the world or something like this. And so then I started thinking, is the limited capacity for translators in science, they're not generally people we hang around with, is that something that we should maybe try to change?
Oh, for sure, for sure. So the translation has come out of our research relationship with Rapa Nui and their desire to see their work and their lived experiences reflected in a scenario in the game, so that when their collaborators engage with something like this, they come into a relationship with them with a little bit of background knowledge. And so Spanish is the first stop, and that comes from our research relationship. But having translations into also indigenous languages, I think, is really important. And we see more and more of this slowly starting to happen. But finding the right translators comes from having good relationship building. And for us, that comes from indigenous to indigenous relationships. So yeah, I think it's really important to build those relationships so that we have the capacity to find people who are able to do this kind of work. But also the funding. It's been quite a challenge to find the funding to do the next iteration of this game. And then the second that we put out the game, we've had more and more communities come to us and say, well, can we do an example for our community? Can we translate it into this language? And we really want to. It's a matter of finding the capacity and the time and being able to pay our game developers to make sure that they also have the ability to, you know, pay their bills and things like that. Yeah, so I definitely think it comes from relationship building and indigenous to indigenous connection to find the right people for the relationship.
Thank you. I've got the privilege of wrapping up this session today. You're welcome to stay on the stage if you feel uncomfortable under the gaze of everyone else. If you want to just walk off quietly behind me, I'm happy with that. But I like that we've got, you know, a group of 3 strong leaders in this space who all happen to be women and who all happen to be, you know, younger than old. And so I'm really happy to have you up here on the stage with me if you'll stay. I think it's been really great. This has been a fantastic session. We've heard a lot of talks. We've heard about engaging communities across both OBIS and GBIF, and then more broadly, so we talked about Geobon as well. We've talked about training and knowledge sharing and some of the ways that that is done across our communities and engagement in the world of collections. It was really good to hear about the GBIF, sort of the node-centric training, either through the regional courses or through providing nodes with materials. and then the support to do that regional-based training led by people who come from the communities. And Elizabeth, it was really great to have you profile a lot of the online training that OBIS does as well, and Lean did the same with OTGA, and the resources that are available to people. I think in addition to the courses that you mentioned, Elizabeth, I just wanted to pause and say that we've also got a really active nodes coordination group, and that OBIS is really, really focused on community. It's not just the data managers and teams, but everyone who is here, everyone who's got any connection to ocean data is part of the OBIS community, and that OBIS Nodes Coordination Group has monthly meetings and is focusing on doing node-to-node training. There's a newsletter that comes out, and that only focuses on the node stories. We try to match people who have a skill set in a particular capacity with other people somewhere else in the world who need that skill set and have that focus really coming from the community. And also some of the training materials I think we have been translated into Spanish, and that was done by the Latin American Caribbean node, the regional node, which is really, really strong. I guess we've got one ocean, but we've got lots of voices around the world who are speaking about the ocean, both in OBIS and in GBIF, as we saw in that map that I think maybe you shared right at the start of this session. One of the strengths that we've got in this conference is that we are all here and we're all making connections between the different networks that we have, and we're finding ways to learn from each other and ways to work together. It really is all about the people, and it really is all about the community. I think our plenary speaker today highlighted that as well. And we need you. We need all to be talking to each other, and we need all to be working with each other. And we need to be open to conversation with each other as well, and I think that's been demonstrated really well today. I've felt like a lot of warmth from the room and a lot of warmth from the speakers. And if we could all just, hang out together in one happy circle and have lunch together, I'd love to do that. I'm not sure it's really busy out there. I don't think that is going to happen, but in my heart, we're all going to be just travelling out there and having lunch together. I'd like to encourage everyone in, all our respective communities to work together, to stay connected on capacity development, to learn from each other, learn from, the strengths of the different approaches that the networks are taking. I think we've highlighted the interlinkages between OBIS and GBIF, and also between MBON or GeoBON, and some of the fundamentals that we all rely on that are provided by TADWIG, so that standards community as well. The joint effort across these, tightly networked communities really sustains that global observing system that we all rely on for the information or the knowledge, or even an ability to discover information that we want to then access later to better monitor the biodiversity of our planet. And I don't think anyone in this room would hesitate to say that we rely on that biodiversity to be alive, and that is a fundamental human need. So I think together we're all really contributing to a cohesive global biodiversity data system, and we should all be proud of that. OBIS and GBIF are working to deliver a joint strategy. We've been doing that for, I was going to say a year, but I feel like it's I should know. It's longer than a year, and an action plan, and we're focusing to align our networks and to align the way that we deliver data, and we do that because we want it to be easy for everyone else to be able to access the data. But I really do love seeing the regional approaches profiled, and putting on my Australian hat briefly, I know that there is a group in Australia who are focusing on developing regional data products from the global data sets in a similar way to what you were doing. If you want to review any of the presentations later, you'll be able to find them online. So if you had to leave partway through, or if you've come in partway through, the presentations will be available after the conference online. If you've got any questions for the speakers, their names are in the program. You can look them up, and I'm sure you can reach out to them later with those questions. There are some on-demand presentations available that are related to this topic. If you find you've got some downtime or if you go back home, remember to look for those on-demand presentations that have been recorded. Not all of them are played during the conference, so there's a wealth of knowledge that sits sort of outside of the conference as well. We've both got booths in the lobby space. Come and say hi. I think we've both got stickers, GBIF and OBIS stickers. There's Geobond stickers, there's TADWID stickers. And the last thing I want to say is that we do have the second half of this session running tomorrow at 10:45 at the same time in the same room. And it's going to cover 3 more topics. The first one is empowering institutions for better data access and use. The second will be about promoting collaborations, and the third is going to be on building capacity for the future. And so if there isn't a conflict in your schedule, and I know that's very hard because there's so much that's happening in this conference that's great, it would be lovely to see you back. It's been a real pleasure spending this time with you. It's been an honour and a joy to work with Meliani and Maeva and Elizabeth to design and lead this session today. And thank you so much to all of our speakers. It was wonderful to hear from you and lovely to see the synergies between your work. Thank you, and enjoy lunch.